Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us here on the live broadcast. We want to welcome you all back to the Cisco TV studio. So we just wrapped a fantastic session around Cisco Data Center. Built for AI, ready for everything. We got some fantastic storytelling from Dan Wendlandt and from Jeremy Foster about the kinds of pressures that IT leaders are under today. You know all about this, right? Rising costs, fragmented tools, that race to be AI ready, and it's all forcing us to fundamentally rethink our infrastructure strategy. Well, that is why Cisco is out there redefining the data center, right? We're taking this unified approach that you just heard about. It simplifies complexity, it accelerates innovation, it puts you in control. So others are out there building boxes, and here we are at Cisco building that foundation for the future, as Dan and Jeremy just walked us through. It is about intelligent cloud-managed operations that let you deploy and monitor and optimize your infrastructure from anywhere, and you can do it at any scale. So another great session. We've got so much great content still headed your way, so we want you to stay with us here on the live stream. And again, make sure you keep reaching out to us on social media. Any platform you like, whatever your favorite is, share your posts, your thoughts, your ideas, your inspirations, what you loved, maybe something great that you heard from a speaker or from one of our leaders. Just make sure that you include hashtag Cisco Live and at Cisco Live so our incredible social media team sees every one of those posts. Right now, Rob is out at the AI Ready Data Center in the world of solutions. Hey there, Rob.
Hey man, how's it going over there in your part of the world?
We're having such a great time up here, and I'm telling you, the energy is still dynamic. As I just said to everybody viewing, so much more still to come this afternoon, so I'm glad you're still our eyes and ears back down there in the showcase.
Well, I'm going to introduce, I just want to preface this real quick. This is Chris O'Brien. I'm going to talk to him in just a moment, but I just want to say, so the show floor is shutting down here in a couple of minutes. I think we're going to get the very thing that we talked about with regards to how maybe not as fun as it was 10 years ago or however many years it was, but I've already started to see how they're going to be maybe moving a lot of stuff around us. There's probably going to be some public address announcements. So to our audience, deal with it. We're all going to be okay. We're going to try and deal with it here as we're doing it. So Chris, you get the challenging final interview of the day here from the show floor as they're literally shutting it down, but the best right now, AI pods. What is new this year, and can you kind of explain how you guys are demonstrating the power of these things here?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess about 6 months or so ago, we launched AI pods, and it was really born of our Cisco Validated Design program, which means we took, Nexus networking, Cisco Compute, and then we worked with our ecosystem partner, channel partners, to really develop a complete AI solution for inferencing, and we launched the AI pod concept. Well, what we've done this year at Cisco Live is actually extend that. So we now have AI pods for training, AI pods fit for fine-tuning or optimizing models. I think the key point is, Rob, is that what we're actually trying to do is allow our customers to build an AI infrastructure that's fit to the purpose they need, right? So they can flex it and size it properly. So what we're doing here on the show floor is we've got our Splunk Observability Cloud, right? I mean, nice dashboard views. You can see the whole AI pod. You can see the NIMs, time to first token, the database. So it shows you, in all one view, you get a great view. But I think the other thing it does is it actually lets you see all the elements that are really involved in building a true Gen AI solution.
Yeah.
And so, from the LLM to the networking to, the applications itself, I think, it's all shown here on the AI pod. And this is live. This is based at, we're in San Diego.
Yes, yeah, I told you that would happen.
Yeah, I did. That would happen. We're here in San Diego. This pod is actually sitting in North Carolina, and the players are building cars, racing against each other, and AI is, not only doing computer vision, watching them build, but commenting on how it's coming along, and then ultimately judges them on their work.
Yeah, so tell me how that works in terms of, because you're talking about you're building on a pre-built model that has to be fine-tuned for a specific use case, but there's some difference between what the packaged is that we kind of provide on from a turnkey situation to the application actually being put together for the customer or by the customer. You've kind of done that here. Can you explain what's going on behind us here with, it looks like they're building something with the Legos. Maybe break down the steps and how those become data input sources for the AI?
Yeah, sure. So, the way this is built is we have 3 different models in play here. So we're using NVIDIA Riva text-to-speech services. Sorry, long week.
That's all right. I can't say
You know,
easy ones.
a diffusion model as well as a Gemini a model to judge their work. So as they play, every 2 seconds, it's taking a picture from the camera,
Yeah.
sending it to our model. The model processes it and then provides input on how they're moving along. Ultimately, at the end of the game, we push a button to judge, and we send it to a different model that actually, looks at the end result. And that model is actually trained with a number of different Legos to say, this is what a
Was supposed to look like.
car should look like. This is what a plane should. This is what. So it's just like any enterprise IT, right? They might get a foundational model, but you really need to tune it, or you need to augment it with your own data to really make it relevant to your business and to try to achieve those outcomes. So that's, in our case, we're trying to let people have fun. So
Well, you know what I love? So, Pat, if you swing down here at the end, this is Amy. I know Amy, and she's highly competitive. And if you notice, even though I'm talking about her, she's not breaking stride. I've seen her digging through here. She's trying to get them out. Don't care about audio here. We're going to find the right piece. We're going to get it out. But so we're using, obviously, the vision application, and it's feeding in. We have to process this, but that is exactly what has to happen for our customers. And I feel like, do you feel like we're actually able to set a foundation that says, let's simplify as much as we can for you on the base so that you can then customize on the edge, so to speak?
No, I think it's not just Cisco that's doing that too. If you look at what like NVIDIA does with their blueprints, now we work closely with them on our Cisco validated design and on AI pods. And ultimately on the secure AI factory. And it's really about simplifying the journey at every layer, right? At the infrastructure, in your AI deployments, right? Have things that are, fully vetted and supported by large vendors such as ourselves, allows the customer to worry about, well, what am I going to do? And maybe that's the biggest issue, right? What is the use case you want to address versus, we're trying to remove the how and, and the complexity.
Well, I was just talking with someone earlier about that. Is in fact, I think the hard part is that we're all trying to keep up as best we can, and then there is this element of, I'll have you come over here if you will, a little bit, so we can face camera. No, that's okay. This is relaxed. This is the last bit of the show. But it's how can we help customers maybe decide on what that low-hanging fruit is for things that will add value to the business. And I've worked with several partners that are assisting with customers on this type of thing, because it's usually about, is it demonstrable? Can we measure it? Can we execute quickly, without maybe invoking a bunch of challenges with, convincing different silos of the business that is still maybe a challenge to overcome. That may require, this is all kind of driving new shifts in even how we run our businesses, I think.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, it's certainly giving new opportunities, but I think, part of the AI pod story is actually standardizing how you approach AI. Meaning you shouldn't create silos within your data center, right? You shouldn't create silos.
Hopefully we're not creating new ones.
Because anytime you customize something, it just costs you more and more over time in terms of people and training, because you got to maintain that thing. But if we can allow them to standardize, if they adopt this approach, if they adopt Cisco, you manage your network through Nexus Dashboard. You manage your compute through Cisco Intersight. If you're an NVIDIA, you're using the NVIDIA, NVIE software. We put them all together. We don't introduce silos. We just allow them to introduce solutions.
Well, actually, my impression this week is that we've been doing a good job of starting to connect our own silos, because the way we're rolling up to single management platforms.
I think G2's
no, the G2 effect has been in full force this whole week.
That's right.
And I didn't realize. But I've talked to people to verify this, because I don't have any connections. I'm not, privy to any information anyone else doesn't have.
I'm not sure about that.
But I get a few opinions here and there, and the overall feeling I've got is that, wow, this is real. And I'm very impressed with, I can't imagine what the stress is behind the scenes with everybody trying to get ready for these shows. It's already been stressful historically, because why wouldn't it be? But then on top of the volume that we are now churning stuff out as we all work at AI scale, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, from the compute business unit, if you look at our portfolio from a GPU perspective, the dense, now we have a dense GPU platform. Now we have a PCIe-enabled 8 GPU platform. So we're now able to handle inferencing and training. Just so our portfolio has grown, but now you're asking more, in terms of management and software. And there really is a general motion, I think, across Cisco to have cross-architecture, cross-solutions, because that's the reality of the situation. And on our team, we work with our partners, the NetApps, the Pures, the Red Hats of the world, NVIDIA, of course, to really bring, true solutions full stack solutions.
That's what it's going to take, but I love the examples you guys have done. Chris, thank you so much.
No.
I appreciate your time. We're going to go ahead and depart. But now, though, let's just go back to the studio with Steve.
I appreciate that, Rob, as always, and thank you for pushing through here with the end of the, not the broadcast day quite yet, but certainly the end of the show day down there. And Chris, fantastic job. Thank you for holding it all together, keeping the energy high and the passion deep as we wrap things up out there on the show floor. Fantastic information. We're so glad to have you with us here in the studio. I'm Steve Moulter, and joining me right now for this next segment, I've got Bill Gardner, Senior VP and GM of Optical Systems and Optics here at Cisco. Thank you for coming in, spending a couple of minutes with us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you've had a great show. Has it been wonderful for you?
Awesome show.
Have you stopped running even for a minute, or is this it? Is this like the most relaxing thing you've done?
This is the first time I've sat down in a while, yes.
Good. We're glad to provide that opportunity here for you. All right, so Bill, here's what I want to do. I want to kind of start at a foundation, right? Explain to us the role of high-quality optics in enabling AI workloads, because I think a lot of our Cisconians all over the world, they don't necessarily understand, they don't know exactly how optics are contributing to AI. So let's start there.
Okay, that's a good place to start. Let me just actually show what we're talking about. This is a pluggable optic. This one happens to operate at 400 gig, but we have a full portfolio of optics, everything from 1 gig all the way to 800 gig. For AI, what we know is that, especially for training applications, there are thousands of these optics that are deployed in the training application. And even if we consider inference applications, which are generally going to be smaller AI infrastructures, there's going to be at least hundreds of these optics deployed in these infrastructures. So what that suggests is that optics becomes a very relevant part of the AI infrastructure. And we really need to pay attention to this as we start offering these optics to our customers. And as customers start consuming our AI infrastructure, optics becomes a big part of that.
Very cool. And a lot of that is behind the scenes, meaning even though it is creating benefit, a lot of people don't know that it's out there. And I feel like we have so many of those layers within the infrastructure. So as we continue to make that push toward AI, whether it's on the agentic side or whether it's in the data center, there are all of these pieces that are vital to creating the infrastructure that people may not know that we have to work with in order to create that bandwidth, that power that we're going to need to run all these new applications.
Very, very true. Very true. It's often, I consider optics in some cases like an accessory that people aren't really thinking about, but it becomes a critical part of the infrastructure for AI. And when we look at AI, and we look at optics in general, more specifically for AI, there's really three things that we have to think about. One is latency, one is power, and the other is reliability. And reliability is probably the most important thing that we really have to think about.
I love that. I love that. What sort of, let's continue more on the reliability, right? What kind of challenges when it comes to reliability do people look at when they deploy their AI workloads? What are they up against and how do we solve for that?
Yeah, we have, I think, gotten some really good and unique insights from our hyperscaler customers about the need to have very high reliability in the optics and the networking infrastructure that's part of an AI infrastructure. And the reason is that they may deploy thousands of GPUs, which are connected with thousands of optics. And these GPUs operate in parallel. They're processing data in parallel. That's the power of a GPU. If an optics has a burst of errors or a link flap, the AI workload will have to stop, back up, and restart.
Okay.
And that is a huge, huge problem for our customers because it's waste. Yeah. They've paid for these very, very expensive GPUs, and now these GPUs are either idle while it is backing up to a safe point, or they've wasted hours of workload time in trying to process a workload and then having to stop it and restart it. So the reliability issue for an AI infrastructure is much more critical than a typical classical networking application. In that application, you can think of Gmail or video or a voice call that's taking place over an internet application. If there's an error in that, TCP/IP tends to bridge that for us and hide that. So as a user, you don't really see that.
Right.
Networking in the classical sense is pretty forgiving in the face of errors. In the AI world, it's a very intolerant atmosphere for any types of errors that we might see due to optics. And that really drives a need for very high reliability in the optic.
Yeah, blame the network takes on a whole new meaning in that
Exactly
particular
right,
case, doesn't it?
yes.
Because if it hides the problem, and uptime is everything. Talk to us a little bit about Cisco's approach to optics, but specifically, how does it align with the growing demand for AI? And again, the workloads we were talking about a moment ago, especially next-gen data center requirements, because it's been such a core talk, especially from the keynote stage, and then all across the conference this week.
So we, I think, are very cognizant of this need to have very high reliability in the optics that we deliver to our customers. And there's really three things that we do to address that. One is that we use a technology called silicon photonics. Silicon photonics is basically silicon technology like CMOS that we use in our switches and routers, but it's switching photons instead of electrons. And what happens then is we can take discrete optics components and replace them with a photonic integrated circuit.
Wow.
And that helps us to drive much higher reliability, almost silicon class reliability, very high reliability. So that's one thing. The second thing is we design for reliability. That means that we know different components have different tolerances. We design for all of the worst case tolerances to be combined. So we make sure that at design time, we're designing for all of the worst case conditions. And that includes things like temperature variation that might occur in a data center. It includes things like voltage variation that might include, we might see in a host, a router or a switch. It includes things like different timing that we might see on that host interface. So all of these things can contribute to, in a classical network world, an error that might occur. Okay. And we make sure that we've designed for all of those to be worst case. And then finally, we take the optic through a qualification process, and it is the gold standard of the industry in terms of the testing that we do to make sure that the optic meets our expectations in terms of quality for the optical interfaces, the electrical interfaces, are they compliant with industry standards? And we test it in an environment that is a worst case environment. So we vary things like temperature and humidity and voltage and timing so that we know that in the event that we find this optic in the worst case situation, it's going to work for our customers.
That's very cool.
Nobody else in the industry does that.
I love that story too, when we can talk about the unique Cisco story. Let's put a button on all this. 10 seconds, what do you want people to remember and what do you want them to think when they think about optics?
I want them to recognize that whether it's an AI application or a classical networking application, Cisco is going to be delivering the highest quality and reliability for optics in the industry. So when you think optics, think Cisco.
Amen. I love that. Bill Gardner, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to join us here in the studio. We truly appreciate it. We're going to leave with that shot. I love it right there.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thanks.
We have got one more great center stage session on tap for you, connecting and securing critical infrastructure with industrial networking in an AI native world. We've got Samuel Pasquier with us, our VP of Industrial IoT, on deck. He's going to lead a fantastic panel, and we've brought in some great partners and customers. The Walt Disney Company, Planet Farms has come in on this one. But we're living in this era where AI and automation are redefining industry landscapes, operational landscapes. They're right at the heart of that transformation. So, critical infrastructures, manufacturing, utilities, transportation. We're about to hear all of it. We're going to send it out to Samuel at center stage right now. Enjoy. We'll see you here on the flip side.